Hello, thanks for joining me for this episode. We're talking about do we need uniforms in church security? What are their place? What are their purposes? We want to talk about some of those things. I'm Captain Joe Puckett, former law enforcement officer. I spent 21 years in law enforcement. I've been involved in volunteering for church ministry security, as well as involved in auditing and visiting and kind of helping with many security programs within ministries over the last few years. I'm also an instructor for many different topics. So that's my perspective on things. I just want to share with you here in this community, the Church Security Answer Man. And I'm so glad you're watching this, listening to this. If you got to it any place else, come over to our churchsecurityanswerman.com or our Church Security Answer Man Facebook page and take a look at the other stuff that we have here or there at those places for you to look at and to interact with our community. So today we're talking about church security, uniforms, those kind of things. What do we need? I've got a little handout here. You can download this at churchsecurityanswerman.com and print it off for yourself if you'd like. So that's available for you, free to keep. Print it out, keep it. Just go over to that, churchsecurityanswerman.com, if you want to get this page. You enter your email address and I'll give it right to you. So no strings attached. So the first thing we want to talk about is the traditional sense of uniforms. Law enforcement, security guard, the little shirt, blue shirt with a badge kind of thing. You know, what is that? What's the purpose of that? Or does it have a purpose in church ministry security, church security? And you know, I think it does have a place. It's maybe not the best option to me. I'm not sure I like the bold, but if you do have things like issues in the parking lot, if you have break-ins, if you have fights, or you're in a high crime area, maybe you're right downtown, and you have issues with people stopping by your property, then the fact is that uniform out in the parking lot may be a good deterrent for people. So whether it's hiring a police officer, which I think in episode 4 of the Church Security Answer Man podcast, you can go over there and listen to our podcast or catch that on the website. I believe we talked about actually hiring off-duty police officers or security guards. And hey, I think it has a great purpose, especially if you have issues in the parking lot. But our people, now let's talk about our people in that congregation. When they see that uniform, it certainly brings in higher expectations. So they expect that person can do more. People that are seeing that expect that person can handle a little more serious situations. So, you know, we want to make sure that they are able to handle more serious situations. We want to look into that a little bit and how that person carries themselves in that uniform and how they look in that uniform can be an important part of that process as well. So we're looking at all those kind of things. So then you have that yellow t-shirt, or you have a bright t-shirt. Sometimes I've seen it be black, bright yellow, bright white, with big, bold security letters across it. You know, those have a great purpose as well, but have similar perceptions as that uniform. People are expected to act a certain way. It's a little more bolder. Sometimes people, maybe our congregations, can be offended by that or a little bit disturbed by that security concept. So certainly as a leader, I have to be ready to sell these kind of things to certain members of the congregation if we decide to put on a uniform, but the reality is, or put on one of these t-shirts, but we can also soften that a little bit. We want to be able to see our folks maybe at times, or have them be seen. You know, we can soften it, turn that bright yellow shirt into a polo shirt that maybe says life safety or campus safety or the safety and security ministry, something like that. That has a good place, I believe. It has a good tone, and that's for me. That's my sharing my thoughts with you about the topic. So, and so, you know, are they going to make people happy just having them wear those shirts? Certainly not. As I mentioned earlier, there's still going to be people that are not going to be happy with it. Some people are looking for you to do something. So the reality is these can be good. There's another purpose, though, to be able to be seen. And that may just be, hey, I'm out in the parking lot walking around and I need help. I call for my other security folks and I need that help. And so they can see me. They can see where I'm at, or people can identify me a little bit more. I do like the brighter polo shirt, maybe a green one or something along those lines, maybe even yellow, that says, you know, just embroidered over the pocket that says campus safety or life safety. And I've seen that. Some churches have taken that approach to identifying their security teams. And this stuff can be good for the team itself to kind of help bond them together as well. So then there's name tags. The way I see it, the next step down would be having name tags. And that's a great option sometimes for some of us. So if we look at, and maybe even my favorite, I'm close to calling it my favorite, not quite, but I do like the name tag concept. So for some of you, you're scraping together to get volunteers. And so you may only have 2 or 3 people, and those folks may wear different hats. So being able to put on a name tag, that says who you are, that kind of thing, is a great option, I think. And those name tags may change. Maybe I am security ministry this week, and next week I'm assigned to be an usher, and I'm not on the security team. So name tags can be a great benefit in those situations when we're short on volunteers or our volunteers switch to different ministries. And then next is we may be playing with the concept of names. And hey, starting out with name tags is great. So we can just print out some paper ones, put them into those little plastic sleeves that we can get at any office store. And reality is we can call our team life safety for a few weeks and see what happens. We can change it to security. We can do those kind of things to see how the congregation accepts it. That might help us ease into it. So, and there's certain assignments that I think need only name tags maybe, or none. And I really look at, in my other lectures or discussions, I talk about the screener position. So those folks that are maybe at the door or your entrance ways that are kind of screening people, talking to them, shaking hands. I think those people should maybe have no name tag and certainly shouldn't have anything that says security on it, because they're going to be asking people questions. If they see somebody out of the ordinary, then they're going to try to strike up a conversation with them and inquire, maybe get them some coffee, ask them how they're doing today, and talk to them a little bit to make sure they're not having a bad mental health day or they're angry today, or they're going to interrupt, or those kind of things. And as we screen those folks, I don't think we want those people to have anything on them that says security, because then once those people see the name security on that tag or that shirt, it's going to give them a negative thought or negative vibe about why this person's asking them questions. So that's where name tags are good, because I can just take mine off as I'm performing the screener position, those kinds of things. So and name tags will still give us that sense of team, if you will. And I like that for our security folks, for our ushers. I like to create a sense of team, because they do need to work together should something go wrong. But also, I think it's good to keep our team members on the team, or keep them volunteering for a while, to have that sense of team. So, and then I think there's time in our ministry security plans, safety plans, for just plain clothes, normal attire. And that may be if, hey, you're in a rural setting, or you only have a couple people that do pretty much everything. You're a small ministry, small church. Plain clothes are great. Just they're prepared, they're ready to go, but they're in plain clothes because they're doing several different things. They may even be a part of the worship team, or they might even be a minister, and yet they're also performing other duties like security. So the one thing I caution, though, is still with that approach, is we're still looking at training folks. You still want to give them training. If they're part of your security plan, I don't care what they wear. If they're wearing plain clothes because they wear different hats, we still want to look at the training aspect. We want to get them some communication skills training, some self-defense training of some sort, maybe, or reading body language so they can see an attack coming. Those kind of things are pretty important as I see it in this plan. So we can have the normal plainclothes attire. I see that as great, especially if you're a low-key ministry, a small ministry, or depending on your location, maybe you're out in the sticks somewhere, or out in a rural area, and you don't foresee a lot of problems. Plainclothes, hey, that's great, and I definitely applaud that. But don't forget the training for those people. So. And hey, I don't see any problem with the idea of attire might change temporarily. Also, we might, let's go back to those security shirts. We may have 2 or 3 of those security shirts hanging around, the bright yellow ones with the big black letters on them, And those are hanging around for if we perceive a problem. Maybe our vehicles have been broken into in the parking lot the last couple weeks. So now we're going to put a couple security people out there for a few weeks till we know that the law enforcement's found those people and arrested them that were committing those crimes in our community, or till we feel like, maybe the problem's over. Or, maybe we hear that there's a couple in our ministry that are having problems, and one of the half, the male, let's say, is out of control. He's violent, those kinds of things. So maybe we temporarily want to put people into those security shirts just to have a little higher profile situation, especially if our congregation is kind of aware of that. Maybe they're on edge or upset because of like the car break-ins or this violence that maybe they're becoming aware of. So it's a temporary situation. You would have to choose where that works. And again, I fall back on, if people are in those shirts, especially that person that could become violent, we better make sure that those people that are identified as security are prepared a little bit. It doesn't have to be a police academy that they've gone to, but we want to make sure that they can handle themselves. And then the last thing that I look at is those safety vests. You can find them for $2-3 at the local variety store, hardware store, and they're just reflective safety vests. And I think those are good for the folks that maybe go out in the parking lot, walking through the parking lot, especially depending on how much traffic might be in your parking lot, or if they're walking through alleyways as they check the perimeter of your facility, those kinds of things. That maybe we have them put one of those on. It might even be a OSHA requirement. You'd have to look at that, since I'm not a legal person or a lawyer, or I'm not up on all of those for all of our areas, but it's probably a pretty good idea, especially if you have much traffic in and out of the parking lots, or like I mentioned, that alleyway, or maybe they're checking sidewalks on the edge of a busy street, those kind of things. Again, it can also be something they put on as a temporary attire to identify them as some kind of official or representative of your ministry, if you will, while they're out and about in the parking lot, or something to that effect. Maybe even events. I like bright yellow. I like identifying attire for special events. Maybe you have some sort of festival in the park, or a festival adjacent to your facility, or a special music thing in your amphitheater, or maybe it's just a big funeral or something like that. And so we can put our people into those kinds of things, those reflective bright vests. But again, if we're identifying them, we also might want to look at the training aspects. So that's what I have for you this week. I hope you'll come on over to our churchsecurityanswerman.com website. The churchsecurityanswerman.com also works, as well as our podcast. Take a look at that on iTunes. Listen to us as you go to work or while you're working out, whatever that looks like for you. And don't forget the sheet. If you want this sheet to print out for your notes, and you want to keep that, put it in a file, go over to our website and print that out. And also, we try to put up lots of news on our Facebook page as well, Church Security Answer Man on Facebook. So please join us, and hey, send me an email if you have questions or comments. It's captainjoepuckett@gmail.com. Thanks for joining us.